This is a puppy mill, a commercial breeding operation specializing in purebred dogs. These are the dogs that will be sold in pet stores and shopping malls. This is what happens when greed overshadows compassion. This is what needs to change. This is why we're here. Every day, in towns across America, thousands of dogs and cats are euthanized in animal shelters. And every day, people go to extraordinary lengths to save those lives by rescuing animals from shelters and puppy mills and transporting them to no-kill facilities. This is the story of 3 of those towns dealing with epidemic pet overpopulation problems caused by irresponsible breeders and irresponsible pet owners.
And 3 of those people fighting to make a difference in their communities, one animal at a time. And one man's mission to change a broken animal welfare system that leaves 5 million dead each year.
In the summer of 2010, Pam Perez, Carol Peckham, and Lottie Benker drove a combined 3,234 miles to save the lives of 67 dogs by bringing them to the one place where they will have a chance to find a family, the Helen Woodward Animal Center in San Diego, California. Along the way, we saw the good, the bad, and the ugly sides of animal welfare not seen in dog chow commercials or at the pet store, and learned why, for the people who live in this world, rescuing animals is much more than a passing hobby. It's their life's mission. This is the business of saving lives.
I met Mike.
I believe I met Michael Arms at a conference.
For No More Homeless Pets of Utah.
He was giving a talk and I just fell in love with him.
And he was so inspirational, oh my gosh. And his stories, oh my God. The stories of how he stayed involved and what a tearjerker he is, holy cow.
I didn't get involved the same way everybody else did. I was born and raised in Kentucky. I was raised on a farm, and the one thing I knew growing up is that I didn't want to be a farmer. So I went to school to be an accountant. And the salary was okay. So I said, sure, I can do this. I found out in a very short period of time I couldn't do this. Back then, they were killing 140,000 animals a year. I gave my 2 weeks notice, and 6 days before I was to leave, they came to my office and they said, Mike, we have a dog hit by a car on Davidson Avenue in the Bronx. I said, okay, get a driver out and get it. They said, that's just it, we have no drivers available. I did the exact same thing you would have done if you were in my position. All I did was take off my suit jacket, put on a uniform jacket, and took the ambulance out myself. When I got to Davidson Avenue, this little tan and black terrier shepherd mix was laying in the street. It looked just like Benji. The car that hit him with such force, snapped his back and just left him there to die. Just as I was about to reach down for him, these 3 fellas came out of this apartment building doorway and said, what do you think you're doing? I said, it's obvious, this little one's dying, I'm taking it to the hospital. They said, no, you're not taking it anywhere. And I said, why, is this your dog? They said, no, we're betting on how long it's gonna live. So I said, well, you folks are really sick. And then just as I turned to reach for the ambulance door handle, that's when these 3 fellas beat me from behind, stabbed me, and laid me in the street. So now the roles are completely reversed. I'm the one lying dying in the street that day. That little one that should not have been able to move found a way to crawl to my side, and he started to lick me back to consciousness. He would not give up on me until I opened my eyes again. I laid in that street that day, and I cried, and I prayed, don't do it. Don't take my life today. Give me another chance, and I promise you I'll devote it to them. I take what I do very seriously. This is my life. It's not a hobby for me, it's not a game for me, it's what I live and breathe, to breath of life back into these orphans.
Mike's ordeal on Davidson Avenue not only changed his life, but the lives of countless animals he would go on to save. In order to help with overcrowded conditions at shelters and rescues around the country, Helen Woodward Animal Center takes in 80% of its adoptable animals from other facilities. And since Mike's arrival in 1998, they have found homes for 265,000 cats and dogs and have not euthanized a single healthy animal.
We look at it here at the center as 2 for 1. Every time somebody adopts an animal, they actually help 2 animals. Because when they adopt an animal from us, we're able to go get another one from someplace else that their time might have been up and bring it here to the center to take its place. You know, in just about another half hour, we'll be receiving 25 more dogs from Mississippi that are still suffering from pet overpopulation problems from Katrina.
The very first phone call after Katrina hit was Mike Arms, wanting to know how we were doing and what he could do to help.
In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the St. Francis Animal Sanctuary was overrun with over 3,000 animals who had been abandoned or lost. 3 of the volunteers from Helen Woodward Animal Center sent to join the massive relief effort were assigned to St. Francis.
So when she needed animals placed, then obviously she knew us and we were a great fit. I think that she knows that we'll place them, we'll do what we say. I mean, we'll make sure they're good and we'll make sure they're in a great home. And that's what she wants. So then she can take more. So if she brings me that many, then she can take that many more. So it's a win-win.
Y'all are gonna be fun. I've been traveling with you all for a month now. Come here. If they didn't help me get some of these dogs into the great homes, they did, I'd have more than what I have now. And they're coming in all the time.
By 9 a.m. Sunday morning, while most people are hitting their snooze buttons, Pam has already rescued 2 flea-ridden puppies she found abandoned in a gutter on the side of the road.
I can't pass up something on the street because you don't know what's going to happen to them.
In 2001, Pam started the St. Francis Animal Sanctuary with her daughter Heidi after realizing the urgent need for a safe haven for unwanted animals in the South. In 2008, Heidi, the driving force behind St. Francis, was diagnosed with brain cancer. She passed away just 8 months later. After losing her daughter and best friend, Pam was left to carry out their mission alone.
Heidi died when she was 48 years old. She was the one who was going to take over the sanctuary after I was gone. Didn't happen that way. And so life just has a way of dealing things for you that you have to cope with and go on. This is not an easy thing to do. People think, oh, well, that would be fun. I'd love to go on transport. I'd love to see California and the scenery. But clearly, that is not why this is being done.
In Mississippi, we have very weak laws for animal protection. I mean, truly, we just have an overpopulation problem. Overcrowded shelters, overcrowded, rescue homes. I mean, eventually, there's just not enough room for everyone, for all the animals.
I correlate rescue in the South as being like peeing up a rope and pretending like it's raining. Because basically you're still just covered in pee. And you just keep doing it because it's the only thing you know to do, so. It just seems to be a way of life down here. Animals are kind of more disposable here than they are in the North. And I don't know what that is.
9 of the 27 dogs Pam will be transporting to California were rescued from a puppy mill in Robert, Louisiana, with the assistance of the Humane Society of the United States Puppy Mill Task Force.
There's something that you can't understand unless you're there, and it's the smell. As soon as I walked in there, my eyes started burning, I started watering, my throat burned.
This is obviously a combination of urine, feces, mud, and dog food.
I mean, if you saw the things that I see on a regular basis, if everyone could see that, you know, maybe it would hit home to them.
The Pekingese were all matted. They couldn't even open their legs. Their hair grew together. I was determined to get them out that night. So we still have a long way to go, because I think there's about 50 of them left out of 109.
I think Pam, you know, is doing absolutely what any number of us in our positions should do. You know, we should go that extra mile or 2,000 miles, you know, to try to find a place for the animals to go, to give them hope, to give them a second chance. You know, not for every animal, but we save the ones that we can.
The worst thing that could ever happen is for a director who works in a facility where they have to euthanize, and a new person comes in and says, why do we have to euthanize these animals? The dumbest answer that a director could ever give is, we can't save them all. That means they already gave up.
There is no such thing as a no-kill shelter. They're not taking in the non-adoptables to begin with. And when they're full, they say, we're full, we can't take anymore. Where are those animals supposed to go? Well, they'll go to your local humane society and or animal care and control. What are we going to do with them? Because there's just not enough resources. And it's not just in Kingman. I mean, it's a national dilemma.
Only 5% of the American public will ever walk inside of an animal facility, because they heard all the depression stories, they heard all about killing, they heard about sickness. And when you walk into the facility and you see some of the most easily adoptable animals, and when you see they're trying to reach their paw out just to touch you because they know they're going to die. Some people might just get depressed and walk away. Or some people like myself just get angry and say, we got to change this. We got to do something about this.
After weeks of being denied permission to film inside of any of the city shelters in southern Mississippi, Beverly Greenwood of Choctaw Ridge Rescue brought us along on a trip to pull dogs from the Brookhaven and Macomb shelters.
I think there's a lot of public facilities that they're afraid for people to see what goes on inside the shelters. I think everyone's very nervous to let anyone see what goes on.
We were able to film at the Brookhaven Pound because its only employee was out on his lunch break. The pound is located on the back acre of the city dump, and within minutes of our arrival, someone saw our camera and called the police. Luckily, the pound's employee returned, and Beverly was able to convince him to call them off. We decided that in Macomb, it would be safer to use a hidden camera.
I have honestly never seen Macomb shelter with that many dogs in it before. The two gyps with puppies, the two females with puppies, he told me they were going to be euthanized on Friday, them and all the puppies. The mange dogs were going tomorrow, and the sick puppies with parvo, those are going to be euthanized tomorrow. I do know that in Brookhaven that they shoot them, but I don't know how Macomb euthanizes. Usually what they do is they use the exhaust pipe of an old truck, and it's just a big metal canister, like a propane gas tank, and they slide the cages in there, and then they hook the exhaust to the truck up, and it usually takes about 30 minutes.
We were able to rescue 14 dogs and 3 cats from the Macomb shelter that day,
and bring them to Choctaw Ridge, where they will need extensive medical care and rehabilitation before they can be adopted.
I think that's a pretty clear picture of the animal control situation in the small towns of Mississippi. That's what is offered. I guess the argument will be, is that worse than none? I don't know. But I hope as a civilized society, that's not our two choices.
You know, euthanasia is an option that we have to just maintain our numbers at the shelter.
From our own corporate philosophy, I would rather have the opportunity to find that animal a home than have it wandering the streets. And if we can't, then at least it's going to have a very compassionate, humane end to its life.
Unfortunately, I think the animal shelter is a necessary public service, even though euthanasia is not the answer for population control. You know, the reality is most people don't spay and neuter, and you want to be graphic and tell them, I don't want to kill your puppies and kittens because we ran out of room.
Euthanizing an animal, it's not easy. You walk into the dog kennels and it's excited to see you and it thinks it's going for a walk.
We will talk to them and pet them, try to keep everything as calm as possible.
Trying to make it easier for myself too. I tell them I'm sorry, letting it know that all humans aren't bad.
Because it's a hard thing to do, especially with a young, healthy animal. And the only reason you're doing that is because you just ran out of room.
What do you say to them?
You tell them what a good dog they are. Excuse me.
Really gets to you. If it didn't, you couldn't. You'd be heartless if it didn't get to you.
My grandfather was a pastor, and I have talked to him about the euthanasia thing because I do feel very guilty.
We honor it, we acknowledge it, and try to give tools to live through it because it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
Each transport's different. It depends on the dog. If something happens or they potty in their crates and you have to clean crates, then that's what you have to do. It's not pleasant, but that's what you have to do. What do I smell now?
I don't know, but I smell it too. I just got it.
Okay, guys. Oop. Look what you all did. Ugh. A lot. A lot. I've never had puppies shit as much as these min pins. Let's see how far we can get this time.
An affluent community in the heart of Mormon, Utah, St. George doesn't fit the profile of a town with a serious animal control problem. But people across all walks of life choose not to spay or neuter their pets, and the shelters and rescues in St. George are overburdened with the constant stream of dogs and cats being left at their doorsteps.
I think the biggest problem we have is the unresponsible owner who loves the puppy, doesn't realize that the puppy becomes a big dog. They need love and they need to be fixed, and they don't realize that. So I think a lot of times we have some very naive animal owners. We can work with these groups, and it's tough at times to understand what they do and the amount of work that they do.
We have no paid staff. All of us are volunteers. There's so much to do in a day. It's amazing how fast it goes. You know, and you get through the 12-hour day and you wonder, what did I accomplish? Doing rescue work, a lot of people think of it, romantically, that, all you're doing is playing with dogs and cats and saving lives, which you are. But there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of heartbreak, a lot of work.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
But it's all worth it. It's all worth it. When you see an animal that you pull out of the shelter and it goes to a new home, a really good home, it makes it all worthwhile.
I think that some people have that rescue mentality. It's their thing. This is the way they can make a difference, and this is what they're going to do, and this is the way they're going to do it. She's one of my long-term groups that every month, religiously, she gets in that van and we have animals here.
For this transport, Bob Walker, a part-time volunteer with PAWS, will be getting behind the wheel for the first time.
It's chaotic. The mornings of the trip are very hectic and chaotic because the dogs know something's up and they're even more crazy and excited than usual. Bob's great. He's great. But this is his first trip and I think he's a little nervous because you never know what's going to happen when there's a bunch of dogs involved, especially when you stop to let them out or feed them. You just have no idea what's going to happen.
Dolly! Maybe that wasn't a good idea.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous every trip. I worry the entire day, not knowing if they're going to accept a dog or not. If some are rejected, I know I can't fill their kennels. I can't go to the shelter and pull out a couple more because I won't have an empty kennel. But once they're there and they call me and say, hey, all these guys have been accepted, or they rejected one or two, then I can relax. It's like, cool. Then I know what my next step has to be.
So it's not enough. It doesn't mean anything at all for us to say we love animals. That doesn't mean a damn thing to me. Because love is the most overused word in the human vocabulary. We love that movie, we love that show, we love those shoes, we love that shirt, we love that blouse, we love that jacket, we love, 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 love. So what does it mean anymore? If we love animals as much as we love the pair of shoes, what the hell does it mean? We have to care enough about the animals that we want to make a difference. We have to care enough about the animals that we'll give them our intelligence. Our hearts aren't going to get it.
We started out 6 years ago to do hooved animal rescue, from horses and cows to goats and sheep to emu to pigs to llamas. And we did that for several years. Then Katrina came along, and then we ended up with a lot of rescue dogs after Katrina. And the need has been so great for rescue dogs that we haven't been able to get out of the rescue dogs yet.
Come on, Shorty.
I would love, 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 love to find a group somewhere that would work with us to get dogs from here up on the East Coast or up on the West Coast or up somewhere, anywhere but here.
Since 2004, Beverly Greenwood has operated Choctaw Ridge with their partner Gene Norton. Their personal incomes, which include Social Security and disability, are the only source of funding for the rescue. And in the past 2 years, they estimate that they've spent $45,000 on feed alone.
Let's go put these two in, we'll start the other ones.
I think there are organizations out there, and Helen Woodward is a great example of that are doing it right. And they're moving, and they're taking animals from other communities that don't have opportunities and being able to, move them through the system and get them out. But a lot of the rescues, sanctuaries do not. They have the passion, they have the heart, they go into it with all the right ideas, but they don't have the funding sources. I mean, they're not knowing which animal is what and who's got vaccinations. There are no records. And it compounds because a lot of them almost get into the collector/hoarder mentality. They can't say no, and they can't turn anything away.
How much of my dirty house has to be on TV?
Just enough to show these puppies.
Okay. Hey guys, it's all right. Okay, children, nobody will bite you. They just bark. They're just happy to see company.
Honestly, we see this all the time, and you know, a very large percentage of people who call themselves rescues, they start out as doing good, and it turns into a hoarding situation that they think they can help and save every single animal that comes through. And in their heart, you know, they love every animal that's there. But you know, the reality is they just get overwhelmed. They end up having more than what they can handle, and they don't know how to stop. Sadly, it ends up the animals still are not in a better situation.
There's always room in the inn. You know, I don't know where Mary and Joseph went, but there's always room in this inn.
It's a sensitive topic when you are looking at hoarding situations, because absolutely in no way do I believe in most cases that this is intentional animal cruelty. It's just an illness. There's probably a lot of cases that need attention, but not necessarily that the right authorities want to intervene on some cases. A lot of smaller towns, you know, everybody knows each other and they don't want to get involved.
After receiving numerous complaints from neighbors as well as the Mississippi Animal Rescue League, an investigation of Choctaw Ridge by the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department in 2006 resulted in convictions of misdemeanor animal cruelty for both Beverly and Jean. A conviction that carries a maximum fine of $1,000 without probation or counseling. Later that year, they were arrested for contempt of court after failing to pay their court costs. During the investigation, officers reported that their hearts are bigger than their wallets.
I've seen more people willing to throw off the blanket and go, here it is, the big, fat, and the ugly. Look at it, like yourself coming down here to say, you know, this is it. They're not all happy endings. They don't all work out the way we want them to work out.
I don't know, maybe at the end of each one of them lately I say, I don't know if I can do it again. But you have to go on, just like with those animals, there's you know, you have to go on.
Another day, Charlotte says. Another day. Going through hell.
Okay.
So, can you tell me where we're going and why?
We're going down to Kingman Animal Control to pick up 6 puppies that were just turned in maybe half an hour ago. And we shall keep them until they're old enough to be vaccinated. Then we can transport them to the Helen Woodward Animal Center. That's where most of our puppies go.
Lottie was a volunteer here many years ago. That's where she started.
Was she a vocal critic while she worked here?
Oh yeah. Have you met Lottie?
There is such a lack of compassion in this town, it drives me absolutely up a wall at times. It does.
I told her before, I need to keep my full-time job separate from what I'm doing for her here. Forgive me? Because I am in 2 different worlds. Okay.
Heather Calendine works full-time at the Kingman City Pound. She also volunteers at Lottie's No-Kill Rescue, Help Animals Lives Today, or HALT. Her days are spent dealing with the harsh realities of pet overpopulation at the pound, as well as the struggles facing an underfunded, all-volunteer, no-kill rescue.
Well, if everybody shared Lottie's no-kill philosophy, I think there'd be a population explosion, except for the fact Lottie believes spay and neuter is necessary.
I fully realize that I'm in no position to help the whole world. But at least if I can save some lives, then it's worthwhile doing.
And she started with nothing. She's got a kind of a shelter now, but she had nothing when she first started. It was just, I'm gonna make this work. And she built everything from the ground up. She's amazing.
All my life until I was about 63, I helped people, okay? And I always vowed myself, when I retire, I'm gonna be a spokesperson for the ones that have no voice, that cannot speak for themselves. And you look at some of these innocent puppies looking at you. How could you possibly not wanting to help? I mean, there's gotta be something wrong with a person that does that. It's got to be.
You know, we will differ philosophically on some issues, but the work she's doing is essential. The animals that she is rescuing out of our shelter, that she transports to California, to Helen Woodward, they may or may not have had an opportunity in the shelter. They may or may not have gotten adopted, and they may have been euthanized.
Yes, I knew you would do that. Okay. I gotta get a, well, if she runs around, it's good exercise for her.
I mean, I couldn't do Lottie's job. I couldn't be driving to California the way she does.
Yes, sometimes it is overwhelming, but I don't know, maybe it's my personality. I just never give up.
If she wasn't here in this county, the euthanasia rate would be much higher. She rescues so many animals from our shelter and finds them good, forever loving homes. And that's dynamite to me.
It only aggravates me if somebody comes and says, I gotta get rid of my dog. You know what I tell him? Oh, excuse me. I only get rid of my garbage because it has no heart and no soul. Some people hang up on me. I hate that phrase. Get rid of. I hate it with the purple passion of my heart. That just tells you the value they put on animals. Like there's no life. Well?
The trouble with most of our organizations is they've always been doing the things that they've been taught, and they don't open their mind to change. And that's what this is all about. We have to change. We have to change. If we were doing such a great job for the last 100 years, we wouldn't be killing 5 million animals in this country this year.
Animal welfare started a paradigm shift about 10, 11 years ago, moving away from more traditional sheltering, moving away from, you know, the dog catcher mentality. I think there was great leadership in animal welfare on a national level. There are shelters out there like Helen Woodward, Denver Dumb Friends League, Arizona Humane, that started these paradigm shifts that said, you know, we're doing everything we can to draw people into shelters, but maybe we need to bring the animals out to them.
Well, before Mike was here, it was kind of, I want to say mom and pop in a good way. When he came, it was, we probably thought, well, you know, one more guy in charge. He's going to have new ideas just like they all did. But he had very radically different ideas and had a real goal and a purpose.
In our culture, in our society, we do more to advertise a Coca-Cola, a hamburger, a hot dog, than we do to market the beautiful product that we have. We make so many mistakes. We've made mistakes for the last 100 years, and animals have died for it. So when do we say, okay, it's been enough. It's been enough. We're going to change this.
Every other month, Helen Woodward Animal Center offers a free educational seminar to teach shelter managers how to raise money, operate more efficiently, and ultimately save more lives by running their organizations like a business rather than a charity.
Okay, and then for the same people, how many of you have day camp? Well, the biggest thing is to get them to realize they have to change. That what we're doing in animal facilities in this country and countries around the world is not acceptable anymore.
And when I heard Mike talk, and when I heard that he's offering to help people like me so we can cut the numbers of those who are being euthanized each year, I was like, are you serious? And he said, come over, so I came over. And I'm blown away. I mean, they are really making everything possible to empower us to go back to whatever we're doing and to make it better. And that is such a novel idea. And sadly, nobody else is doing it. And what they're doing is just remarkable.
Hi, ladies. Hi, ladies.
I look at Helen Woodward Animal Center as the facility of the future. When organizations grow up, this is what they need to be. we have a therapeutic riding program for the physically and mentally challenged. Now, you can go anywhere in this country and find a therapeutic riding program, but that therapeutic riding program is not going to have a pet adoption center. You can find a pet adoption center anywhere in this country, but that pet adoption center is not going to have an equine hospital. You can find an equine hospital, but they will not have a boarding facility. You can find a boarding facility, but they're not going to have a children's education and day camp program. You can find a children's education and day camp program, but they're not going to have a small animal hospital. We are the only one of our kind in the world that have all of these programs under one umbrella. We are the youngest facility in San Diego, but yet we do more adoptions than any other facility in San Diego. Why? Because we have value to our product, we have value to our services, we have value to our programs. So we look at it much different. A lot of organizations have been there and left saying the problem is too big for them. We say no. Because the problem is so big, we have to be there.
By bringing shrewd business practices into an industry driven by emotion, Mike Arms has played a part in the rescue of over 7 million animals. But he'll be the first person to tell you that saving lives is meaningless if we don't address the root cause of America's pet overpopulation problem. If you own a pet, have them spayed or neutered. If you're looking for a companion animal, consider adopting a rescue, or at least buy from a reputable breeder. If you manage a shelter, learn how to raise money so that you can give the animals the care they deserve. And if you don't own a pet, vote for legislation to change animal welfare laws so your tax dollars aren't being spent to euthanize animals. We are all a part of this world. We share it with each other and with the animals we've taken from the wild and made dependent on us. And if you think problems in Mississippi or Arizona don't affect you, just look at these dogs who traveled thousands of miles to find their families and think again.
Well, now it's our time. Now it's our time to realize that our industry is something to be proud of. It's something that needs to be changed, that we're in the business of saving lives. We're professional in what we do and in our demeanor and the action that we have to take. And if we can realize that, and then teach the next generation what it's really all about, the change will take place, the killing will stop, and we'll give the animals the dignity they deserve. Thank you so much.